Namaskar, Om Shakti Hrim Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayana. The Narada Purana Part 2. Sagara. Yadavi lived in the hermitage and in due course gave birth to a son. You will recall that she had been fed some poison. The poison had done her as the baby no harm and was ejected when Yadavi gave birth. Since the word Gara means poison, and since Sa means together with, the baby who was given the name of Sagara. Urva took great interest in the boy's development. He taught Sagara the Shastras and the duties of a king. When the boy grew up, the sage also taught him the art of warfare. Sagara became learned, honest and wise, apart from being brave and powerful. One day Sagara asked his mother, "Where is my father? Who is he and where is he now? Cursed is a person who does not have a father. Please tell me where my father is." Yadavi had not so far told her son anything about King Vahu, but now she had no choice. When Sagara got to know how his father's enemy had driven his parent out from their kingdom, and they resolved to exact vengeance. He sought his mother's blessing and bade farewell to Urva. King Vahu had the sage Vasishka as chief priest and guru. Thus Vasishka should be Sagara's priest and teacher as well. Sagara went to visit Vasishka and received the sage's blessing. The sage also gave him several divine weapons, namely Andrastra, Varunastra, Brahmastra and Agnya-astra, and a wonderful bow as well. This made Sagara invincible. Thus fortified, Sagara waged war on his father's enemies and defeated them. Some of them were killed outright. Others fled to the Vasishka for refuge, and Sagara followed them there. "Sage," he said, "it is better to kill these sinners. Please don't grant them refuge. Only the stupid permit evil enemies to live." "Now," answered the sage, "let them be. There is no point in senseless killing. These sinners will have to pay for their misdeeds later. Why should you commit a sin by killing them when they have sought refuge?" Sagara spared the enemies, but he did mete out token punishment to the enemies. Among his foes were the Shakas, and their heads were shaved off. Also among the foes were the Yavanas, and these were instructed that henceforth they would have to sport long hair. As for the other enemies, their heads and beards were shaved off, and they were told that would no longer be permitted to follow the sacred religion laid down in the Vedas. Sagara was then crowned king by Vasishka. He had two wives. The first was Keshini, the daughter of the king Vidarbha. The second wife was named Sumati. The sage Urva had got to know about Sagara's coronation and marriage. He came to bless him. "I shall grant you wives a boon," he said. "One of your wives will have a single son and the other will have 60,000. Tell me who wants what?" Keshini wanted a single son and Sumati desired 60,000. Having granted the boon, Urva returned to his hermitage. He some inconsistency here with the account given in the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, Sagara did not have any sons and prayed to Shiva so that he might have offspring. The boon was granted by Shiva and not by Urva, and it was Sumati who had the single son and Keshini 60,000. To return to the account of the Narada Purana, Keshini had a son. Right from birth, the son turned out to be evil. The word asamanyasa means unbalanced or improper. Since the son was evil, he came to be known as Asamanasa. Meanwhile, Sumati gave birth to 60,000 sons, and following their elder brother's lead, these sons too became evil. At first Sagara ignored the misdeeds of his sons. He tended to dismiss them as juvenile exuberance. In any case, Asamanasa had a son named Ashumana, who turned out to be quite unlike his father and uncles. Ashumana was good and righteous, but Asamanasa and his brothers continued to do as they pleased. They disrupted the performance of yajnas and oppressed religious people. They appropriated for themselves the offerings that were made to gods as sacrifice. Apsaras were abducted by these evil princes. They also stole flowers from the divine Parijata tree. Drinking was their favorite pastime, together with robbery and the theft. They even waged war against their father Sagara himself. Need one say more? Indra and the other gods began to plot so as to devise ways for bringing about the destruction of Asamanasa and his brothers. There was a sage named Kapila who was devoted to Vishnu. He was so powerful that he was like the great Vishnu himself. Kapila had an ashrama in the underworld. The gods went there and started to pray to Kapila. Great sage, they said, deliver the world from the depredation of Sagara's evil sons. Don't despair, answered Kapila. Those who oppress others are sinners and failed decrees that they are soon destroyed. These princes will soon have to pay for their misdeeds. Go back to heaven and rest in peace. The gods returned to heaven. Meanwhile, King Sagara organized the Ashwamedha Yajna. Vasishtha and other great sages acted as priests at the sacrifice. In such a sacrifice, a horse is an important part of the ceremony and is left free to wander around wherever it chose. Indra chose an opportune moment to steal the horse. He then left the stolen horse in Kapila's hermitage in the underworld. Sagara's sons were supposed to guard the horse. When the horse was found to be missing, they looked everywhere for it, but in vain. The horse was not to be found in any of the 7 regions, lokas, that form the upper reaches of the universe. The princes therefore concluded that the horse must be hidden somewhere in the underworld. They went to the shores of the ocean, and there each of them began to dig a hole in the ground so they might be able to penetrate to the underworld. Thus it was that all 60,000 sons along with Asamanasa entered the underworld. And in these lower regions they happened to come upon the sage Kapila hermitage. The stolen horse was tethered in the hermitage. Oblivious of everything, Kapila was busy meditating. The princes concluded that it was the sage who had stolen the horse. They proceeded to tie up Kapila. Tie up the chief, they exclaimed. Bind him and kill him. Look at the way the chief is meditating. That is one of the laws of the world. He who is the greatest sinner pretends to be the most holy. Sagara's sons bound up the sage, also thus did not disturb Kapila's meditation. But thereafter the princes began to kick Kapila and tug at his arms. This roused the sage from his meditation. Angered at the disturbance, he sternly gazed at the princes. Such was the fury of Kapila's gaze that the princes were immediately burned to ashes. So terrible were the flames that emanated from Kapila's eyes that the snake who lived in the underworld fled from there and sought refuge in the waters of the ocean. The sage Narada brought the news of this misfortune to King Sagara, but the king did not mourn the death of his son. He was rather pleased that his evil son had been so destroyed. But the horse had to be brought back so that the sacrifice might be completed. There was also a stipulation that he who had no son did not have the right to perform a yajna. Sagara therefore adopted Anshumana as his own son. He also instructed Ashumana to go and fetch the horse. Anshumana went down to the underworld to Kapila's hermitage. He prayed to the sage, "Please forgive my uncles and my fathers," he said. "The holy are by nature forgiving. They are like sandalwood. Just as sandalwood continues to give off fragrance even if it is chopped, the holy forgive those who do them harm. Please pardon the sin. I am pleased with you, says the sage. Ask for the boon. Please tell me a way whereby my father and uncles may ascend to heaven, requested Amshumana. There is nothing else that I desire. Your grandson will bring down the holy Ganga from heaven, answered Kapila. When this happens, your father and uncles will be pardoned their sins and will ascend to heaven. Take the sacrificial horse now and go. My blessings are with you. Amshumana returned to Sagara and related all that had happened. Amshumana had a son named Dilipa, and Dilipa's son was Bhagiratha. It was Bhagiratha who brought down the river Ganga from heaven. One of Bhagiratha's descendants was a king named Soudasa. Soudasa's son was Mitrasaha, also known as Soudasa. Vasishka cursed Soudasa that he would become a Rakshasa demon. But as soon as Soudasa touched the holy water of the Ganga, he returned to his human form. The sage interrupted Sutta. You are going too fast. They complained. Why was this Soudasa and why was he cursed by the sage Vasishka? How can you proceed without telling us the whole story? Sutta obliged. Soudasa was a king, and as king he was a good and righteous. He was learned in the Shastras, blessed with a good fortune. He had many sons and grandsons, and was exceedingly wealthy. He ruled happily for 30,000 years. Once King Soudasa went to the forest for a hunt. With him were his soldiers and ministers. But while pursuing a black buck, Soudasa got separated from his companions. His pursuit led him to a place in the forest where he found 2 tigers sporting. With an arrow, King killed one of the tigers. Before dying, the tiger adopted the form of a gigantic Rakshasa. I shall have my revenge, said the other tiger, and vanished. Soudasa was mystified at these happenings. He was also slightly scared. When he was reunited with his companions, he related to them all that has transpired. With slight misgivings, they returned to the capital. After some days had passed, the king decided to organize a horse sacrifice. Vasishka and other sages were invited to act as chief priests. After the yajna was over, Vasishka went off to have a bath. Meanwhile, the Rakshasa, who had been in the form of tiger, appeared before Soudasa, but he was now in disguise of Vasishka, and the king did not see through the deception. King, said the Rakshasa, get some meat cooked for my meal. I am going to have my bath. Soudasa instructed his cook to do the needful. The Rakshasa now adopted the form of Soudasa's cook and brought the king some cooked human meat. Soudasa did not realize this, and he waited patiently for the sage to return. When the real Vasishka came back after completing his bath, Soudasa served him the human meat. Vasishka of course recognized the meat to be human meat and was furious. Audacious king, he exclaimed, how dare you serve me human meat? That is food of Rakshasas. For this sin I curse you that you will become a Rakshasa and will live on human meat. The king did not understand what was going on, but through his powers Vasishka got to know that the entire affair would be no fault of this king's. He had been deceived by demon. When Soudasa realized that, his anger was aroused. He felt that his guru teacher Vasishka had unjustly cursed him. Soudasa therefore prepared to curse the sage. But the king's wife Madayanti intervened. Have you taken leave of your sense? She asked. Now, how can you curse your own guru? Control your anger. What is destined to happen to you has happened. How can you blame Vasishka for that? Madayanti's words curbed Soudasa's anger, but his act of cursing required some water to be taken up in one's hand. Mantras were to be chanted over this water. What was going to happen to the water over which Soudasa had chanted incantation? It had become sanctified and was energized. Soudasa flung the water onto his own feet. The holy water immediately blackened the king's feet. Since the word Kaumasha means black and Pada means feet, Soudasa henceforth came to be known as Kaumasha Pada. The king touched Vasishka's feet and begged forgiveness. Please pardon me, he begged. Vasishka was now dismayed at his own anger. He realized that he had been hasty and had punished the king for no fault of his own. A curse once imposed cannot be revoked, he told Soudasa, but you will not remain as a Rakshasa indefinitely. The duration of the curse will be for a period of 12 years. After this period is over, the holy water of the river Ganga will purify you, and you will return to your human form. Then the king retired to the forest as a Rakshasa. He lived on deer, lizards, birds, and humans. When all the living beings in the forest had been eaten, he moved on to another forest. Thus it continued, and Soudasa, the Rakshasa, moved from forest to forest. Eventually the demon arrived on the banks of the river Narmada. A sage and his wife lived on the banks of the river. Soudasa grabbed the sage and prepared to devour him. The sage wife begged the demon to spare her husband. You are not really a Rakshasa, she told the king. You are born a Kshatriya and used to be a king. Please remember that you belong to the great solar dynasty, that you are the king Mitrasaha, or Sudaha, or Soudasa. Please recollect the way of Dharma. I am like a daughter unto you. Protect me and spare my husband. Soudasa paid no heed to these words. He ate up the sage. The sage wife thereupon cursed Soudasa. You did not listen to my entreaties, she said. Therefore I curse you. You will die when you meet your wife. Moreover, you will continue to be a Rakshasa for a very long time. I have committed only one sin, replied Soudasa. Yet you have cursed me twice. You have cursed me that I will die when I meet my wife. That is curse number one. You have also cursed me that I will be Rakshasa for a very long time. That is curse number two. My single sin has been that of eating your husband. Two curses for one sin is too most improper. I am accordingly curse you. You will become a Pishacha, demon. How there were two demons who were wandering around, Soudasa and the sage wife. These two demons came to the banks of the river Narmada. In a banyan tree that stood near the river, there lived a third Rakshasa. Who are you two? Asked the demon. Soudasa and the sage wife told him their stories. And who are you? Soudasa then asked the demon. The demon related his story. He used to be a Brahmana named Samadatta, who lived in the kingdom of Magadha. He was extremely religious and devoted to the Vedas. But unfortunately he happened to insult his Guru and was cursed that he would become a Rakshasa. Having exchanged notes on their past lives, the three demons continued to live there. One day a Brahmana from the land of Kalinga happened to arrive at the place. The Brahmana's name was Garga. The three demons saw Garga coming and were delighted. Food has come, they exclaimed. But Garga was busy chanting the names of Shiva and Vishnu, and the demons could not even approach the Brahmana. They then addressed Garga and said, You must a very holy man. We have eaten several Brahmanas, but you are the first one whom we could not even approach. You alone can deliver us. Please sprinkle some water from the holy river Ganga on our bodies. Rishi Garga was slightly surprised at hearing three demons praise the river Ganga, but he did as he had been bidden. He took up some of the holy water in tulsi leaf and sprinkled it on the body of the demons. Immediately the demons attained divine forms. The sage wife and Samadatta both ascended to heaven. As for Soudasa, he first went on a pilgrimage to the city of Varanasi. Thereafter he returned to his own kingdom and ruled there happily. Need one say more about the wonderful properties of the holy river Ganga. There was a Brahmana named Kashyapa, who was the father of Indra and other gods. Kashyapa married two of Daksha's daughters. Their named Diti and Aditi. The gods were Aditi's son and the demons were Diti's son. The gods and the demons did not like each other and perpetually fought among themselves. The demons had an extremely powerful king named Vali. He was Virachana's son and the grandson of Prahlada. Vali was so strong that he conquered the entire world and thereafter resolved to conquer and annex heaven. So prosperous was Vali that his riches are impossible to describe. He possessed millions of elephants, horses and chariots, and a huge army. His two chief ministers were named Kumhanda and Kupakarna. Vali also had 100 sons who were the equals of their father in valor and wisdom. The eldest son was named Vana. So the terror that Vali's invasion of heaven caused can easily be imagined. Threatened with the siege, the gods came out to fight. Terrible was the war that raged. Countless arrows darkened the sky. The wheels of chariots thundered, horses neighed, elephants trumpet, and the sound of the thrones of bows filled the battlefield. All other living beings feared that the universe was about to be destroyed. The demons hurled mountains at Indra, and the king of the gods chopped these up with his arrows. Elephants fought with elephants, horses with horses, and chariots with chariots. Blood flowed freely and dead bodies littered the battlefield. For 1,000 years the fighting went on, but eventually the demons defeated the gods. The gods were forced to flee from heaven and started to dwell on earth in human disguise. Vali was not an evil person. He was indeed quite devoted to Vishnu. He performed yajnas and ruled over this region of heaven, the earth, and the underworld. He ruled rather well. But Aditi was greatly distressed to see her son suffer thus. She decided that the demons might be vanquished and that Indra might be restored to heaven. She therefore retired to the Himalayas and there began to pray to Vishnu. She meditated sitting and she meditated standing. For part of her tapasya she stood on one leg. For some more time she stood balanced on her toes. For some time she ate only fruit, then only leaves, and later still she thrived only on water. Eventually Aditi gave up both food and water. For 1,000 years she prayed to Vishnu in this fashion. Vali got to know about Aditi's meditation and sent his companions to distract her. These demons appeared before Aditi in the guise of gods and said, "Mother, please give up this difficult meditation. Your body is suffering. You are trying to do all this for us. But do you think that we will survive if your mother dies? Please desist." But Aditi did not listen to these entities. She continued to pray, and this angered the demons. From this anger emerged the fire, and the flames threatened to engulf Aditi. But such was the power of Aditi's tapasya that the fire could do her no harm. Instead, the flames burned down the entire forest and all the demons who had gathered there to disturb Aditi. At long last, Vishnu appeared before Aditi. "I am pleased at your tapasya," he said. "What is the boon that you desire?" "You are the Lord of everything," answered Aditi. "Please deliver my son from the demon." "I shall be as you desire," said Vishnu. "I will be born as your son, and in that form I will bring deliverance for your sons." After some days, Aditi gave birth to a boy who was known as Vamana, a dwarf. Meanwhile, Bali had begun a yajna, and the chief priest at the sacrificial ceremony was Bali's guru, Shukracharya. Several sages came to attend this ceremony, and so did the dwarf. Shukracharya realized that the dwarf was none other than Vishnu and tried to warn Bali. Be careful, he said, this Vamana is Vishnu. Don't grant him a boon or promise him anything. I assure that he has come here to deceive you. That is impossible, responded Bali. It is my good fortune that Vishnu has come here to grace my house. How can I refuse him what he wants? He then went up to the dwarf and said, I am blessed that you have come. Please tell me how I can serve you. I need some land for my prayers, answered the dwarf. Please grant me as much land as may be covered in 3 of my footsteps. This boon Bali granted, but as soon as boon had been granted, the Vamana avatar started to increase in size. Vishnu placed his first step of heaven, the second on the earth, since there was no more space left. The third step was placed on Brahma's world or Brahmaloka. But in the process the universe was split asunder and a lot of water emerged from the center of the universe, Brahmanda. These waters washed Vishnu's feet and poured down on Mount Sumeru. Thus they formed the holy river Ganga. What was to be done about Bali? There was no place left for him to live in. Pleased at Bali's generosity, Vishnu granted him the boon that he could live in the underworld with the other demons. In Sagara's lands there was born a king named Bhagiratha. He was a trustful and righteous king. He regularly performed sacrifice. He was also handsome, brave and wise. The god Yama himself came to see what sort of person Bhagiratha was. The king worshipped Yama with offerings and said, I am blessed that a great god like you has come to visit a mere mortal like me. Please tell me about Dharma, righteousness. What are the characteristics of those who are righteous? Tell me about sins. What happens to those who are sinners? Yama told Bhagiratha about the deeds that bring punya, store of merit. The greatest punya is acquired from donating wealth to brahmanas, or from providing them with employment. Another performer of good deeds is one who gets a pond digged. Punya is also acquired by building temples dedicated to Shiva or Vishnu. The best temple is one that is made of gold. Progressively low down the ranking are the ones that are made of copper, crystal, stone, bricks and wood. He who maintains a pond, a temple or village is also a performer of good deeds. Donating alms like cattle of land also brings punya. Other good deeds are establishing gardens and planting trees. Anyone who plants a basil bush is eternally blessed. Sins are pardoned if one wears a garland of basil leaves around one's neck. Those who bathe Vishnu image with milk or clarified butter are certain to be taken to heaven. The image can also be bathed with coconut milk or sugarcane juice. Shiva's image should also be thus bathed. A Tithi is a lunar day, the lunar fortnight during which the moon waxes is known as Shukla Paksha, and the lunar fortnight during which the moon wanes is known as Krishna Paksha. Certain specific Tithis are particularly auspicious for bathing image of Vishnu and Shiva. Examples are Panchami, 5th day of the lunar fortnight, Ashtami, the 8th day, Ekadashi, 11th day, Dvadashi, 12th day, and Chaturdashi, the 14th day, in Shukla Paksha. Purnima and solar and lunar eclipses are also auspicious occasions of puja. Punya can be acquired through donating food, the hungry, and water to the thirsty. A person who donates this object never has to go to hell. Another good deed is to massage the feet of guests with oil. Anyone who helps brahmanas or donates cows to them is blessed. One who protects those who seek refuge also obtains a lot of punya. The importance of donating alms cannot be overemphasized. Apart from cows, buffaloes can also be donated. Other objects which may be donated are curds, milk, clarified butter, honey, sugarcane, fragrant objects, flowers, fruit, and molasses. Knowledge vidya is also a worthwhile object for donation. Gold, jewelry, and precious stones to qualify for donations. Image of Shiva Linga and Vishnu Shalagrama should also be donated. Other traits characterize those who have acquired punya. They do not criticize others and prefer to associate with people who are righteous. They have managed to control their sense and are not too addicted to food. They serve guests, brahmanas and teachers well. Vishnu and other gods are forever in their minds. Yama next told Bhagiratha about sins and the various hells where sinners have to suffer. Hells are terrible places and there are several such narakas. The name of such hells are Tapana, Vauka Kumbha, Raurava, Maharaurava, Kumbhipaka, Niruchvasa, Kavasutra, Pramardana, Bhishana, Asipatravana, Lalabhashya, Himatkata, Mrishavatha, Vasakupa, Shvabhashya, Mutrapana, Purishharada, Taptashiva, Shaumali Druma, Shanita Kupa, and Shanita Bhajana. In some of these hells, sinners are made to eat their own flesh, in others they are burnt in fire. Some hells are such that stones and weapons are showered down on the sinners. Narakas may be extremely hot or extremely cold. Sinners are fed molten iron. They are hung upside down. In some hells, sinners are hurled down from mountain tops. Worms feed on sinners and they are compelled to lie down on burning coals. Sword Yama servants beat the sinners with the clubs. Their bodies are sliced with the swords and beaten by the snakes. Scorpions are also let loose on the sinners. Jackals and tigers feed on their meat. There are so many different types of misery in the hells that it would take 1,000 years to catalogue all of them. Sinners are those who kill brahmanas, drink wine, or steal gold. It is sinful to criticize brahmanas or elders. One who promises to donate alms but goes back on his word also commits a crime. An egoist is a sinner. It is forbidden to dabble in medicine or astrology without knowing the Shastras. One who interprets the Shastras without knowing them is a sinner. Slander, vanity, lying, fraudulence and murder are crimes. One who partakes of food offered by Shudra is a sinner. Chiefs are bound to be punished. One who associates with a sinner becomes a sinner by contamination. Sins can be atoned for by performing penance, praishchita, but there are some things for which there is no penance. Such a sin is worshipping of images of Shiva or Vishnu that had been worshipped by a Shudra or by woman. Shudras and women are not supposed to touch images of Shiva and woman and Vishnu. One who murders a Brahmana may perform prayachita for his sin, but there is no penance for someone who hates Brahmanas. That is also true of someone who criticizes his teacher or sacred Vedas. A Brahmana who stays into the fold of Buddhism cannot hope for deliverance through penance. After sinners have paid for their sins in hell, they are born again. One who commits a severe sin is the firstborn as a tree. In successive births, he is then born as a worm, a snake, an animal, and as someone who does not believe in the Vedas. Eventually he is born as a poor Brahmana. Other sinners spend 7 lives as donkeys, 10 lives as dogs and pigs, and 100 years as worms, and 100 years as rats, and 12 lives as snakes. 1,000 lives thereafter are spent as animals, like deer, before the sinners are finally born as cows. 7 lives then have to be spent as chandalas, outcasts, 16 lives as shudras, 2 lives as kshatriyas, and 2 lives as vaishyas. Next sinners are born as brahmanas, but only as poor and diseased brahmanas. Vishnu delivers humans from all evil. The fruits of all actions should be vested with Vishnu. Devotion to Vishnu is paramount importance. but there are different types of devotion to Vishnu. The three basic elements are Sattvika, Rajasika and Tamasika. Sattvika guna is holy and pure, Rajasika guna is passionate, and Tamasika guna is torpid. Thus Sattvika guna is superior, Rajasika guna is medium, and Tamasika guna is inferior. Different types of devotion to Vishnu owe the nomenclature to the three elements. A person who prays to Vishnu for someone else's destruction is Adharma Tamasa. A devotee who makes a pretense of praying to Vishnu is Madhyama Tamasa. A person who picks up devotion to Vishnu by observing others praying is Uttama Tamasa. An Adharma Rajasa devotee claims wealth from Vishnu as reward for his devotion. A Madhyama Rajasa devotee claims the fame of great deeds, and Uttama Rajasa devotee desires freedom from all illusion. A devotee who prays so as to atone for his sins is Adharma Sattvika. One who prays because such prayers are loved by Vishnu is Madhyama Sattvika. And a devotee who prays for sake of devotion alone is Uttama Sattvika. This list thus has 9 different types of devotion to Vishnu. But there is one further type of devotion to Vishnu, and that is the best form of devotion that one can think of. That is known as Uttamatama devotion, and occurs when the devotee feels no difference between himself and Vishnu. There is complete union and unification. Concluding the account, Yama told Bhagiratha, King, I have answered all your questions, but righteous and prosperous. Rule well and be devoted to Vishnu. But do not forget that there is no difference between Vishnu and Shiva. They are one and the same. Your ancestors were evil and now rotting in hell. They will be freed when the waters of the river Ganga touch the ashes. I bless you. Do now as you will. Yama departed. Bhagiratha resolved that he would perform tapasya so to bring down the Ganga from heaven. He accordingly went off to the Himalayas to meditate. The Narada Purana gets slightly confused here. Having stated that Bhagiratha went to the Himalayas to meditate, it states that the king went to the bank of the river Godavari. To return to the account of the Narada Purana, Bhagiratha went to the banks of the river Godavari, where the sage Bhrigu had a beautiful hermitage. In the nearby forest lived black buck, elephants and boas. Birds chirped on the trees, peacocks danced in gay abandon. The forest was full of trees and flowers. Bhagiratha worshipped Bhrigu and said, Great sage, you are well versed in the way of dharma and learned in the Shastras. Please tell me how I may please the Lord Vishnu. King replied Bhrigu, You are indeed holy. Had that not been the case, you would not have thought of trying to free your ancestors. Be truthful, don't lie, and always associate with those who are good. Give up all sort of violence, and most important of all, always meditate on Vishnu. That will bring you punya. What is the trust? Asked Bhagiratha. What is the non-violence? Who are the people who are good? What is the punya? How does one go about worshipping Vishnu? Great sage, you are well versed in the knowledge of all the Shastras. Treat me like a son and tell me the answers to all these questions. Bhrigu obliged. Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.